Yes, and there we are again with a new episode of Dance Gem. Today we're going to talk about the different functions in teaching dance, or you could also say the different jobs in teaching dance. So, and what is that? Are there different jobs to teach dance? We're going to discover that, and I will never do that without my good friend and colleague, Mr. Ton Greten. Let me see if he's there. Hey, Ton.
Hey, Sean, nice to see you.
Nice to
And
see you too. Yeah.
a different function in teaching
Different
dance.
functions in teaching dance, or you could also say different jobs or different roles in teaching dance. So that
Well,
is maybe even a little bit better. But anyhow, we called it this way. And it did you could you hear me? Was
yeah,
I
I couldn't
was
hear
I
you.
away? Was I away for a moment? That is normally
On,
your way of doing it, putting yourself on mute.
yes, yes. Oh, you put
That's
yourself on mute, Sean.
Yeah, I put myself this time on mute. That was funny. Anyhow,
Yeah,
just in case you didn't hear what I said, which is impossible because I was on mute, we are going to talk about different. The intro was still, I was still not on mute, but we are going to talk about the different roles, functions, jobs in teaching dance. Now, I think that's a great topic. What do you think, Tom?
yeah, absolutely. Because sometimes we mix up all our roles and professions. Like, I would give an example, like a dance teacher. You have a dance lecturer. It's again a little bit different. You have a trainer, you have a coach, you have a choreographer, a repetitor, repet, repetitor,
A repetitor, yeah.
repetitor, yes, a judge, a specialist, a guest teacher, a speaker, and a master in dance. And what is all the different roles in it? Even you have also a dramaturg. And yeah, you have so many different roles. A mental coach, a coach and a mental coach. There's also a slight difference in it. Sean will explain that because that's his expertise. And all this we will speak by after each other. So we will start first with the dance teacher, Sean.
Yeah,
That's
one by one. So if you
one
think
by
about
one. Yes,
Yeah, if you
I
think about if you think about these things, then almost in all profession, if not literally in all professions, it always starts with a more general approach. I think a good example, I always think about doctors, physicians, right? The first doctors were just general doctors. They looked at your eyes, they looked at your ears, they look at your stomach, and they look at everything. And if you had to do an appendix operation surgery, then he would do that too, and he would also pull your teeth. That's all. They did it all. But over time, the knowledge and the need for more specialized things came into play, of course, right? So therefore, if you have something about your heart or your head, you go to a different specialist. And a dance teacher is the generalist, and that's typically where you start when you're a beginner. And then over time, as you develop, then you get to other things. So first of all, I make a very big distinction between a coach and a teacher in this thing. When I always say a teacher actually hands over your first information, and that could be just information that's needed in that one time. It could be overtime, and a coach is more a developer, and he guards the process of your development. That's how I see it. Now, can a dance teacher also be a dance coach? Yes, but I still would stimulate people to think about it as two different roles that you both can do. But you can teach to a lot of people, but you cannot coach a lot of people. Strangely enough, Tom, in the United States, we very often, if you get hired for 1 hour to teach, they still call it a coaching hour.
can you explain this again, Sean?
Yeah, in the United States, for some reason, it became such a fancy word, coaching, that if you get hired for an hour with a different studio, then they still call it a coaching hour. which always I think that's weird because I'm only teaching you a subject. It could be whatever it is, whatever your question is, I answer, but I'm not coaching you in that hour. But people do it that way. That's fine by me, of course, because they can call it whatever they want. But in this podcast, we would like to make a clear distinction for as much as possible between all those roles that you have as a person, and preferable that you can create the best possible team around the development of a dancer. Like in a school nowadays, if you go to a normal high school, it's not one teacher that teaches everything. There are multiple teachers that teaching different subjects.
Yeah, correct, Sean. And I started as a dance teacher, actually.
Yeah,
I did my school therein. It was a private school. And I get ballroom Latin teacher. A little bit strange, but it was quite expensive to do that in this kind of dance form. It was a lot what I have to spend for to get a teacher at that time. That was that's long in the beginning of 90s. 91, I spent 25,000 gulden about that. That was say now about 12,500 uh, euro or dollar. It's almost the same, Sean.
almost. Yeah.
Yes, and that teaching, I learned a lot with it, the basics, how you learn somebody the steps with partner dancing at that time, to do a business, to do a medical, something little medical that you could first aid, help people. And it was about 2, 3 years at that moment for one style, the Latin, and another 2 or 3 years for the ballroom style. And after I did nothing with it, actually, as a dance teacher, actually, you do mostly courses. People come to the lesson, and then you teach, and mostly the basics and some intermediate level. That's it. That was my role, and general dance skills. That's my phone, so I will put it on. Yeah. Ah, I see. I had a meeting. I forgot my meeting. So that's not so positive, Ron. But anyway, yeah, to be dance teacher, there is so pros and cons, positive and negative points to it, and you build a good relationship with your students and build a foundation, make dance accessible. You make the dance accessible for many people, and that was a very possible. Limited specialization and yeah, or advanced expertise only for that level of students. But it helped me a lot to grow to a lecturer and etc. to grow choreographer. So Sean, maybe you can continue on that one.
Yeah. So no, I think if you we both come from the same style, if you want to. We both grew up in the ballroom and Latin world. So yeah, it was very normal to then take also your if you wanted to be a teacher, you'd you take your lessons, which was a little bit odd for me because they also taught you how to run a dance studio, which I had no interest in, to be really honest. I just wanted to teach dance. And with my previous education, I thought it was very interesting. I loved the technique lessons that I had. To be honest, at that time, I had to still develop a lot of things in my head. But bit by bit, I started to immediately see I was already a pretty advanced athlete in another area where I thought, hey, but where is the attention, for instance, the mental aspects of being a competitive dancer? And so I was already very focused on teaching competitive dances and not so much the social dancing. So that's where I went in my head also a little bit wrong in picking the education, right? I was not so clear in what I wanted to teach, but because our world was a lot around social dancing, which is a beautiful profession, if that's what you like, by the way. Everyone hits own, and I have nothing against that. Actually, that's where the masses is anyhow. And I see a lot of colleagues and teachers doing that with a lot of joy, and that's typically called a dance teacher in the Netherlands, someone who teaches dance classes like that. Then some dancers, they decide to go in a different route and they want to maybe become a competitive dancer. You see that in all dance styles, by the way. And I always believe that's a different approach for that student that becomes more dance coaching. Then they also need to dance what we call, a funny word is that actually, Tom, but they call it in our dance world, they call it routines. I always thought it was a funny word, but it's actually a choreography. And if you think about the dance education that you and I followed, there was not a single lessons about choreography. It was about real choreography. Yeah, it's about how to put things one after the other. We call that figures. So both Ton and I had to find our own way to become choreographers, right? We had to study and go to other people to with other qualifications, with other experience to become a choreographer in our own dance world. Now, Ton, I can say that to you. You probably would never say that to yourself, but you develop yourself to, I think, one of the top choreographers in at least in our dance industry, and I think far beyond. You did television work, you did large groups, you do two couples, you did individuals with your own daughter, you did so many, you have so much experience in choreography in all kind of dance styles, not only in the ballroom and Latin dance style. And I am in that case very limited, right? I do it mostly for competitive dances, and it's my greatest joy, by the way. I love choreographing things for performance and so that's
Yes.
another choice you make, right? So they can hire me for a choreography. But what I'm stronger at, if it comes out there, is what we call choreology, right? That is how you dance. And that can be transferred to a lot of other dance style. And that's basically, if you look at our title, Dance Gems, that's what we actually stand for. It's not only
Yes.
what you do,
Everybody
and
is a
it's how.
gem.
And that's it, that's a gem. That's what we stand for. That's how we met, Ton and I, and that's what we do. But so we went quickly over already three functions: teacher, coach, and choreographer. And there are many more.
Yes, Sean. I am quite diverse because
You
I
are.
choreograph Latin, standard, contemporary, hip hop, pole dancing, musicals, quite variation, and fusion. I can also fusion all this dance together. And this diversity, I have now a method for. And we made a podcast before, traditional teaching and a modern kind of teaching. And that was podcast season 3 and number 2. And now I'm quite happy that I have that diversity and the kind of modern teaching skills because you let it open and I use my skills and my tools for all the dance form. It's the same. And actually, it's
Yeah.
technically and it has structure, but totally different than all the other styles. So I don't have only one style because I mix my style, and this is the contemporary style, modern style, with the material what I have, the dancers. And the dancers, we are one team and we create as a team with the input what I gave to them. And then every choreography will be something unique, something different, one of a kind. And that's the thing what I'm looking for. Also, as a choreographer, I developed my skill to mix music. So my specialty is how I make music make concepts, make ideas, from idea to execution, and how to plan that. So actually, there is also a coaching in it, and a teacher in it, and a lecturer in it. So everything is there in it. So I try to integrate it. Of course, I do everything, but still there is development in it. It is very holistic. And maybe you could continue, Sean, otherwise I speak so long. Hmm.
No, that's okay. Yeah, you can definitely do everything as long as you see the different parts that you do. Now I'm in choreography. Now I'm in this part. And often when I work with dancers on the floor and I'm choreograph for them, or I would rather say with them, I literally say we are focusing now on choreography. Forget the technical details, forget your emotional expression at this point in time. We talk a little bit about it to give us context, but we're now busy with the choreography. And then I move typically a little bit further to, okay, what is the vision that we have? How do we want to dance it? And then I find out what their ability and knowledge and skills are. To say, okay, we want to show really a fast couple on the floor. Well, you're not actually such a fast dancer. Maybe we should talk about that. Maybe you can develop it. That's what. So I always see that. Now, what's very common in sports and athletes is that they typically see, oh yeah. So strangely enough, also there, Tom and I think slightly different about it. I've been positioned very often as a mental coach. I always say, first and foremost, I'm teaching dance. I'm focusing on a specific part of dance. But if what I teach you from a mental point of view doesn't improve your dancing, you might as well come to me for therapy. Yeah, that's a different thing. If it's improve your life, great. But the first thing we do is we help you to, because that's why you hired us. We help you to make you, or whatever that is, to improve your dancing, your dance experience with it. But that's a very known distinction, right? Physical training, mental training. Okay, it became maybe a little bit a thing of me, but I rather see myself also as a holistic dancer. Tol and I, the first thing we started to talk about is what is holism. There is no difference between body and mind, so we have to be aware that when we change something in the body, something in the mind changes as well, and the other way around. We change something in the mind,
Yes.
the way you approach your thing. So a good example is episode 1 of season 3, which is about the kinesphere. It's a mental model. But if you apply it to yourself, you would dance completely different.
Yes.
You know, so the mental model is you move always from one fixed point. That is the basic of the kinesphere. And it's a mental model. But if I do it to you, you can already see that I move different than when I just move like this. So that is that integration of all these things is what Dance Jam is about, while at the same time, and that also in the back end of Ton's book, we make a distinction between all these roles and functions. So at some point in time, it needs to come all together. That makes sense, right? Because it's still one dancer. But it is really good to see that. And in some areas, yeah, you need to have a specialist, maybe on mental coaching, maybe on choreography, maybe on, that might be a new word for you guys. It's choreology. That is a special area in dance. As a dance teacher, I never believed that I could do everything for my students. I never believed that.
No,
I, I,
uh, correct, Sean.
I,
We have different roles actually,
we do.
constantly. And some
E-
people have only one role in this business. They are a dance teacher, but sometimes there are also choreographer, and depends how much experience you have. And so, as a choreographer, you are a creator, a designer. I call myself also designing of movements. And yeah, I design actually movements and a creation process. And it's also a different process than as a dance teacher. And the repertoire is like the repeater is actually who repeats the choreography, the creation of the choreographer. And also the trainer do that. So it gets a little bit confused. You explain both roles, Sean?
Yeah, of course, I can. Yeah,
Yeah,
so the word repetitor is more used in Europe. Sometimes in the US, you hear in dance company a rehearsal director. You hear that. That is just someone, or it could be a group of people who are just responsible of helping people practicing their routines, the same thing over and then and acknowledging and being respectful to what the choreographer's vision has. Now here sometimes it goes wrong. Sometimes these repetitors or the rehearsal directors they go and make it oh they are not so good in that, let me change it, so they start to change it already before talking to the choreographer. But in an ideal world you have that in other athlete forms like in soccer for instance. You call those people trainers. They just keep repeating and make them work hard on it. It's not per se maybe the strategist. In soccer they would call that the headmaster, right, the head teacher, but he has many people that work with them, and some people are really good in letting people doing the same thing over and over again until it's in them. So that's already a different function. Now, if you, of course, if you're a small amateur team or you have a small dance group, just be aware that you have the different roles that you go through. And you could do actually the same principles as what we just explained here. Am I now being rehearsing with them or am I choreographing? If I'm rehearsing with them and I constantly change the steps, that's not a that's not a smart. There is a time when you define the steps, and there's a time when you rehearse and help people to master the steps. That's a little bit what we talk about.
yes. And the trainer, you explain that too, Sean?
Yeah, the trainer is not so much used in our dance world, but it's a the trainer is a little bit. Yeah, they takes care of a lot of things, and I haven't seen anyone who called themselves a dance trainer. I tried that a little bit in the beginning. I haven't seen a lot. I don't know about you, but in other sports, you see definitely someone who takes care of a larger process of it. Also,
Yeah.
the stamina of the dancer, the nutrition. You can have the basic questions about nutrition and all that kind of things, and make sure that someone is ready to compete or to perform. That's a
Yes.
thing.
In Europe, but in I assume in America it will be the same, or in Asia. Here, the role is they are more focused on the technique, on the conditioning, on the stamina, on the flexibility, mobility, on the strength of injury prevention. Not always helps dancers to stay physical strong and safe, develops discipline, but it depends if you have in a traditional style lessons or in a modern style of lessons. And the artistic, mostly skills are more or less. Of course, they are also creative, but on a different way than a choreographer. And sometimes the trainer works on a choreography and they changed some things because they think movements because it has to be also technically look correct, and that's very traditional style of teaching, but they not communicate with the choreographer, and that's really not done because you hired a choreographer to make a particular piece, and then if you're going to change it without to communicate with the choreographer, that's actually not done. You have to respect that, and I assume that happened. In my case, it happened a few times, and I was not amused about it. Of course, they can change it, but first speak with the choreographer and not just change something because you have a different vision. Because a
Yeah,
choreographer did a lot of research to come to a particular point why he want it like that, and not the trainer wants. And the
yeah,
same with the repetitor. if they change something, you have always to speak with the choreographer, always. And the choreographer, in my case, is also a designer, sometimes of clothing, for the makeup, for the hair, for how to decorate space and time with the bodies on the stage or on the competition floor, but also the screen, the video, what could behind the lightning. And actually, he is a kind of regisseur for the dance, for the whole dance, because he has a particular holistic picture in totally. But also there is many times a conflict with the regisseur of the TV program or in theater because they have different expertise and don't believe that the choreographer has so much expertise in different areas. The choreographer can also be an expert in all the other things because his heart is in the holistic thing to make a whole thing from it. And but if you just make steps, that's also possible. So I wanted to add something how
No, I think
I
that's
work and
that's
in a
great
practical
addition.
way. So
Yeah, no, I think definitely in theater, if you're a choreographer, if you choreograph without any knowledge of lighting or the size of the floor, that's very limited. Okay, there could be a role, but most choreographers have a vision how it would look like when the whole production is ready. Now, that could be a conflict with maybe an artistic director who wants to guard the brand of a company but hopefully those discussions happen before the choreographer starts to do his work. On a different scale, you actually also meet that in my world, it's competitive dancing. Sometimes a couple comes to me saying, "Hey, Jean, we would like to have a new Roomba. Can you choreograph a new Roomba for us?" I said, "Yeah, I would love to." Now you do that, and you spend quite a bit of lessons with them on it, and then they go practicing. They are their own repetitor, their own rehearsal, and then they start to change already, or they go back to maybe their main teacher and said, "Yeah, that's nice, but I think we should change that." And then they come back to next lesson and they show you this is what we made of it, and then you think, man, that is so not what I had in my mind. Why did you already change it without talking to me? Yeah, but we couldn't do it. I said, why did we not talk about why you couldn't do that piece? Maybe we should solve that instead of changing it already to something that you already can do. Because if you only do the things that you can do, there is no innovation in your dancing. So in a choreography, there is also innovation in your dancing. And that sometimes can be very frustrating that people already start to change it and then don't try to solve or work on the problem the challenge, I should say, not the problem, the challenge at hand. And I
absolute
find that
so.
sometimes very frustrating. And so in the part of the dance world that I live in, we see not so much collaboration between these different dance teachers, and they just take it. And it would be so nice to do that. We haven't worked a lot together, Tom, but we probably would sit next to each other and look at the couple together and see what is the best for them instead of letting our own
Yes.
ego prevail in that moment.
The most ideal is to work in a team. Together,
Yes.
each other achieve more. And I had this only one time in my life. I
Hmm.
worked many years in the Ukraine, in Kiev, for STB, the TV program. And so you think you can dance. 3 years, and I was always 6 weeks in the Ukraine, and sometimes 8 weeks. And I worked together each Saturday. We had a meeting with the choreographer, me. I had my concept already ready. Then the makeup artist was there, the prop man was there or woman, the one who do the hair, not the makeup artist, but the hair artist, I could say, who do the hair of the dancers. Then the costume maker was there, the designer, the lightning man was there, the regisseur was there, the director of the channel was there. All we were there, and the main choreographer was there also. I was the choreographer and the main choreographer, and then we was debating about the idea and to bring this to an optimal format. And then after 4 days comes a particular product out of it. And that was wonderful working, in my opinion, because you
Awesome.
work together as a team. Mhm.
Fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, but so I think that even if you don't have that many people, just by seeing these different roles, because it would help the dancer to say, hey, we are now in the process of repeating. We are 2 days away from the performance. We're not going to change the choreography anymore. To see that, even if you're just with you and me, you and I would probably still think from those different roles. Where are we performing? Is it on the stage or is it on a bright competition floor? And so we would take that into account and think, okay, now we think a little bit more as a mental coach or maybe more as so to see that. But in the end, if you have a couple that works with you and you are their coach and you would send them for a specific things, specific technique, it could even be for things like nutrition or stamina. Don't you
Yes,
think?
that's a specialist there, Sean.
Yeah, of absolute.
These expertise you
Yeah,
need also
yeah,
to hire the specialist
yeah.
and do all as the guest teacher then, but and work with them also with a makeup artist, very
Yeah.
important, or somebody who has the expertise in lifts or in power training. So important to work as a team together.
Oh my gosh, yes,
And
yeah.
and if you have one WhatsApp group or a Telegram group or some other group, messenger group, it's important how you communicate with each other. But I had to add something also, Sean. I worked also for television in China and in the Netherlands, and it's totally different culture because when I worked for the television in Netherlands, I could only choreograph the movements. And the rest, they said, okay, we have the experience, so you cannot tell us how the register must put the camera because when they have 7 cameras, I wanted the top shot or I wanted the bird view, etc. But I couldn't add that. They get even angry when I said I want that particular thing. And actually, a register, Hitchcock, the famous Alfred Hitchcock, was also a choreographer. So actually, regisseurs are also choreographers,
Of
but
course.
choreograph the screens. When they have 7 cameras, they can choose 7 cameras and they can put the picture what is important for them, Sean. They can give it the priority how to which camera they use, camera 1 or camera 4, and they can switch in it. And even also there are choreographer in sports also because they play with the picture and you want to give people pictures. That's also I see them also as a choreographer,
Of course.
but
Yeah, that was the whole thing.
they
Yeah.
they
It's
think
visual.
only in that one box.
Yeah, no, definitely. If I think that's where I think the Americans are fabulous in how to present sports game, and they make it so exciting, right? They know exactly where what's going on. There are many people, and so the director or the register of that specifically sport event, he sees all these monitors and he knows exactly do camera one, go that camera two, but he already knows the game so well that he have some sort of a script and then he's doing it. Of course, with live sport, you don't know what's going on, where the ball is, but it is a form of choreography for sure. I definitely do that. And but if it comes to arts and dance, if as a choreographer specifically in your role and you have no control over the lights or the camera angles, you are limited in what you can do. Uh, I choreograph
Uh,
mostly for the competitive floor, but my one of my teachers always said we might not have control over this, we call it the strength of the medium, right? What lights is there? Is the floor white? Is it white? Is the temperature warm or cold? If you, as a coach or choreographer in this case, have no clue of what's going on, you take away a lot of the possibility for the results because it's a very result driven game, competition. And he actually makes it even stronger when I had lessons with him. Is saying, I said, I can guarantee you, you can make a couple make almost win a competition by only knowing exactly the strength of the medium, right? Because if it's a
Yes.
white floor, you'll remember when they changed one competition, they changed the floor white and the walls were white and they used to be dark and everyone came in their white clothes and it looked like nothing except one who was very smart and had a different set of clothes and suddenly, boom, that was the couple that you saw. It's not because that person was dancing better, because that person understood the strength of the
What
medium.
actually it's a nice theme for podcast, Sean, to
Yes,
speak
actually it
1
is.
hour about choreography. And what we are in the role of our different professions,
Yes,
like a
yes, it is.
speaker, yes, give a lecture, and the lecturer is mostly academic, and it's, yeah, he put many hours in it to develop their knowledge on a conservatorium or in a university, and has more contacts and teaching theory and practice. Mainly the teacher mainly do the practice and follow a certain format. And we have also in our business, when you do competition, you have also judges, and they have also a different profession. Sometimes you judge only, and there never was a teacher or a choreographer. And I would give the example like, actually, you never build a car, how I can tell you, or you never was a chef cook, a chef cook, and you have to suddenly make some meal to cook or something like that, and then and somebody else will give a judgment about it. But I have never going through all these points to come to a chef cook.
Themselves. Yeah, yeah. I think that's a good example, and it could be fun. It could be entertaining, but a lot of these things in my, it is. It's also sometimes a little bit not so respectful to the dancers themselves because they work really hard. They put a lot of time and efforts into bring their best on the floor, whether we like it or not. It's not relevant, but it requires people with some knowledge and experience to judge that, because that is
Yeah.
respectful to, and it works both ways. If you are in a competitive setting where the dancers feel that they will judge professionally, they also will conduct themselves differently. But if it's all
Yeah.
about politics and about rules that we don't understand, then why would we then expect these things from them? And I think that is a whole different podcast, but it's also the role of a judge to take that very serious. And I'm not saying that
Yes.
people don't do that, by the way. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying it's a different role. And one of the lectures that I liked was from one of the top dancers. He also talked about roles. Even if you go to a competition, you have coaches, you have maybe teachers on the floor, you have audience, you have dancers, and you have judges. If you are an audience, be audience. If you are a judge, then don't coach your couples there. That's not done. And if
That
you,
happens sometimes, Sean.
oh yeah, no, of course. That's why I'm saying it. So know your role, and if you're audience, it's really nice to just be audience and enjoy it. And you can have your opinion about it, whatever you want. Just be audience. Don't coach. Don't go walk to a couple that you don't know and say, "I think you should do this." No, just be audience, right? That is for the coaches only. And if I taught a couple maybe twice in my life and they came as a guest student and they come to a competition, I would never walk up to that couple during competition and say, I think you should do this. If they do that and they said, our coaches would like your opinion, I would do it, right? But otherwise, that's not my role. I'm not their coach. I've just taught them for 2 or 3 hours. See, and that's where a lot of things get confused in my mind, right? It's not the best service to the dancer. That is always Tom's and my objective. What is in the best service of the people who are doing the performance or who are doing the competition or whatever it is?
Yes. What I would do, Sean, when I would be a dancer, but when I danced, never came to me up the question, what are the roles of a teacher, of a coach, of a choreographer? Because I didn't know that, because I didn't ask me
Yeah,
myself this question.
yeah.
So what you could do is go to the search machine or to a chat machine, AI machine, and ask these questions and try to do your own research that you understand what the role is from some person. And if you have that knowledge, you can place more also what you could choose to which expert you want to go and where you want to get your expertise if you are more developed, I would say. But even in different dance teachers, all dance teachers are different, use a different skill to teach,
Style.
have a different experience.
Yeah.
And if you not know that, if you are happy with the situation where you are now, then it's fine. But look, if people have a podcast of them, a dance teacher, they have maybe a podcast or a judge or a specialist in dance. But I know there are not so many podcasts in dance. That's actually a pity, but I want actually, I would listen with a lot of pleasure to a podcast. But if
That's
it's
why
not
we
there, sure.
created. That's why we created one ourselves with a slightly different role, and that is we to call ourselves dance researchers. We research
Yes,
dance, and that's a completely different role. So we could definitely be hired to give a literally give a lecture only about a more theoretical model. We could do that too. So that's different. We are getting a little bit to the end of our podcast,
yeah,
Ton. I think it was a
correct.
great idea
I
for
want
you to,
to add something.
yeah,
I
go ahead.
call you are also actually a dance movement science or a
Yeah.
dance researcher. Both of them are important because we go very deep in some subjects and very wide in it and try to discover everything holistic what is around to the subject, like the kinesphere, what we did, or the dynamic, that we also understand the words and energy or power. So, but we are to the end, Sean, so you can continue. Sorry that I
No,
interrupt.
that's actually very connected to what I wanted to say. If you indeed go to your AI nowadays, you can literally ask what are the different roles, and I would add something to it and responsibility for each role. So I did that in the meantime for just for you guys for fun and giggles, and it immediately comes out with almost all the things that we talked about 10 different things. There's a dance teacher, there's a dance coach, there's a choreographer, artistic director, a rehearsal trainer, a dance mentor, dance education specialist, a dance therapist. We didn't talk about that. We had lecturer or a guest teacher, and then we have adjudicator or a judge. And for each, it already spit out the primary role and the responsibility. And it's an amazing recap. I will put something in the show notes of that, of what we talked about. So yes, we maybe made it our job to be a dance researchers, but I would highly stimulate just do it yourself. Nowadays you have so many tools. You have the internet. You still have old-fashioned libraries, by the way. You go there too and look at old-fashioned books. Go to your AI. Go ask other colleagues what they think about it. Hey, how do you see this? And then form your own opinion. Challenges, in our opinion, which we like. We don't say that we have all the wisdom with us, but we do our best to at least challenge you or help you to make different choices. All in, like I said, it's for us, it's always to increase the knowledge and the skills of the dancers that we talk to and work with, and also the teachers, of course. Now, with that was our episode on the different roles and functions within the dance teaching. We did a ton. This was actually episode 3 of season 3. And you're on mute. That's only one time. this You did it
Yes,
once,
yes,
I did it once.
yes. Yesterday was 3 times.
Yesterday was
Yes,
3 times.
I think we have now 60 episodes, and it's actually 60 hours of podcast. 60.
Amazing.
Woo!
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing.
That's a
60.
lot.
Yeah, that's a,
Yeah.
there's a lot of, and then just a little bit, we could easily make out of each episode 3 or 4 or 5 long lessons for you guys. And we probably will, by the way. This is an idea that we have so that you maybe have an easy way to apply what we brought to you theoretically. So let us also know if that's something you would like. That's the path that Tom and I actually were just discussing for this podcast. It's live. We just tell you where we are. That's how it is.
Yeah.
As always, Ton, it was me a great pleasure to have this conversation with you. I always learn a lot from you. I hope you learn a lot from me too. And so with that,
Absolutely.
we'll go to our next podcast episode. For now,
Yeah.
I'm already saying goodbye. Goodbye. If you want to say something, this is your opportunity.
Yes. Don't believe us. Don't trust us. Do your own research and try to research what is the role of the dance profession where you are in at that moment, and try to understand all these roles, and try maybe to do a lecture for yourself and to explain it to other people.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
that's a great idea to just put it into practice, right? Put it into
Yeah,
practice.
actually,
That we say
yes.
goodbye. This was another episode of Dance Gems, different functions or roles in teaching dance. I'm going to start the music, tell you very quickly where you can find us. We are at Spotify and at Apple with Dance Gems. We are, of course, also on YouTube at Ton Greten /podcast. We have our own website, www.jam.dance/podcast. We are also on Facebook, many places more. So with that, we say to you, until the next episode, bye-bye.
Goodbye, and speak to you soon.